What if one night your television flickered and something that wasn't supposed to be there began to show through? No warning, no explanation, just static. And then a masked face. It didn't ask for permission. It didn't leave a message. And the perpetrator was never caught. Someone hijacked the signal, and no one knows how or why. This is the Max Headroom incident, the broadcast that shouldn't exist. Welcome to Lost in the List. November 22nd, 1987. It was a Sunday night in Chicago. The Bears had just won a game, and sports anchor Dan Roan was reporting on WGN-TV. Then, mid-sentence, the signal cut. Static overtook the screen, and suddenly, it wasn't Dan Roan anymore. It was something else. A figure stood in front of a wrinkled metal backdrop, swaying slightly. He wore a rubber Max Headroom mask, uncanny, smiling, dead-eyed. The head jerked. The image flickered. But no words came, just a mechanical buzzing hum. It lasted just under 30 seconds. Then the screen cut back to the anchor. Dan Roan blinked, visibly shaken, and said,
"Well, if you're wondering what just happened, so am I."
And that should have been the end. But it wasn't. Less than 2 hours later, it happened again. This time, it wasn't during a local sportscast. It was during an episode of Doctor Who on WTTW Channel 11. The episode was titled Horror of Fang Rock, and horror was exactly what viewers got. At 11:15 p.m., the screen erupted into chaos. Static, glitches, and then him again. The same Max Headroom mask. This time, he spoke.
I just made a giant masterpiece for all the greatest world newspaper nerds. My brother is wearing the other one, but it's naughty. They're coming to get me.
The voice was high-pitched and strange, like someone mocking, glitching, and unraveling. He waved a Pepsi can and hummed a TV jingle. He held up a rubber glove. Then, he bent over, and a woman in costume appeared and began spanking him with a fly swatter. It made no sense. There was no clear message. Just madness. And then, once again, gone. The next morning, the headlines made their rounds. The public was confused, and the government was alarmed. Both the FCC and the FBI launched investigations, because this wasn't just a prank, it was a federal offense. In 1987, to hijack a TV signal, you would have needed serious gear. And the hijacker had managed to override 2 different stations, just hours apart. This required a microwave-level frequency manipulation, powerful enough to overtake multiple station transmitters. It wasn't just an impressive feat, it was unnerving to think how someone could have accomplished this, and why they would do so. WTTW engineers admitted they couldn't stop the second intrusion. Their backup transmitter was automated. No one was in the control room when it happened. The agencies responsible for handling the investigation looked at station staff, interviewed local engineers, and investigated pirate radio circles. But there was nothing. No fingerprints. No trace. No suspects. To this day, no one has ever been caught. To understand the scope of what happened, you need to understand how impossible it should have been. WGN signal was transmitted from the top of the John Hancock Center. WTTWs from the Sears Tower. To hijack them, someone had to beam a stronger signal directly at those towers, at precisely the right frequency, and at exactly the right moment. You would have needed a powerful microwave transmitter, specialized antennas, precise line-of-sight access. Knowledge of both TV infrastructure and broadcast timing. In other words, you had to have detailed knowledge of what to do and how to do it, as well as the ability to be close enough, with all of the necessary equipment to pull it off. An exercise that surely should have afforded whoever was responsible some unwanted attention. But no one saw or reported a thing. This wasn't random. This was planned, executed, and rehearsed. So who did it, and why? That question has haunted researchers for decades, because the deeper you look, the stranger it gets. You see, this wasn't the first time a signal was manipulated, not by a long shot. Long before the CIA existed, there was the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services. They were America's original wartime intelligence agency during World War II. Their job? Handle the unconventional, the impossible, the things that couldn't be explained in press briefings or clean headlines. And one of their most curious divisions was known as the Morale Operations Branch. This wasn't espionage in the traditional sense. They weren't collecting secrets. They were planting them. Inspired by Britain's political warfare executive, Morale Operations, MO for short, specialized in what was called black propaganda. Forged documents, fake radio stations, entire newspapers produced to spread rumors and confusion behind enemy lines. Their goal wasn't direct attack, it was internal collapse, rot from within. They dropped fake German field orders suggesting mass executions, produced forged Nazi memos claiming that senior officers were stealing supplies from their own troops, even faked love letters designed to incite jealousy and mistrust among enemy ranks. One OSS radio broadcast claimed that Hitler had a secret plan to flee to Argentina. Another told of phantom uprisings designed to make the enemy paranoid of their own people. Every whisper, every leaflet, every forged command, crafted to feel real. And when the war ended, the OSS was disbanded, but not for long. In 1947, it was reborn, quietly and cleanly, into something else. The Central Intelligence Agency. And the tricks of wartime propaganda, they didn't go away. They adapted. In the early days of the Cold War, the CIA launched Operation Mockingbird, a real classified program designed to shape public opinion through the media. At its height, Mockingbird involved hundreds of journalists, some witting, some not, newspaper editors, radio producers, foreign correspondents, all quietly connected to Langley. It wasn't about writing the news. It was about framing it, shaping what was seen and what wasn't. According to documents later unearthed by the Church Committee and investigative journalist Carl Bernstein, at least 400 members of the press had direct CIA ties, major networks, big-name anchors. And for decades, that's how it stayed, until the stories started to leak, until people began asking questions. And even then, no one went to prison. And then it vanished. The program was simply phased out, but not forgotten. Officially, Operation Mockingbird was terminated. Unofficially, well, that's harder to prove. Because when you teach an agency how to control perception, you don't unteach it. You just give it a new audience. It shifted. In the 1990s, the CIA opened its Entertainment Liaison Office, a quiet partnership between Langley and film studios. Under the banner of public image, the agency began consulting on films and television shows. They helped rewrite scripts, they offered filming locations, and sometimes, if the story painted the CIA too negatively, they made it disappear altogether. Shows like Alias, 24, and Homeland, films like Zero Dark 30, Argo, The Recruit, all shaped, at least in part, by CIA hands. They weren't hiding anymore. They were producing. So what does any of this have to do with a rogue TV hijacker in 1987? The Max Headroom figure didn't just appear out of nowhere. He was a satire, a TV host designed to mock media itself. A glitching, synthetic man, manufactured to look like a person, delivering content in fragments, distortion, and slogans. Non sequiturs, but also advertisements, echoes of real commercials. Fractured through a warped signal, there was no clear message. But maybe that was the point, because what's more unnerving than a transmission that doesn't explain itself? That doesn't ask for attention, just takes it. The tools required to pull it off were no joke. Directional microwave antennas, knowledge of tower frequencies, access to line-of-sight windows across Chicago's tallest buildings. That's not something you find in a basement, that's something you're trained to do. And yet, no one was ever caught. No suspects, no arrests, no trail. Just static and questions. Was it a prank? Maybe. And that's what haunts some analysts. They point to the symbolism, the precision, the familiarity with media itself. They ask, who had the motive, who had the skills, and what were they trying to say? Because the Max Headroom incident didn't tear anything down, it didn't destroy, it didn't even really disrupt. The hijack didn't feel like a rebellion, it just revealed. It felt like a mirror, a corrupted reflection of television itself, a system feeding on its own glitches. And maybe that's what someone wanted us to see. Because if Mockingbird taught the CIA one thing, it's that information doesn't need to be hidden, it just needs to be framed. The Max Headroom incident was a rupture in that frame, a reminder, however brief, that even the most trusted signal can be rewritten. So, what if that night in 1987, someone tried to show us the strings? What if the static wasn't noise? It was a warning. No one was ever caught. No other hijack came close. The Max Headroom figure never returned. But his laugh still echoes in certain corners of the internet. And his message, if there was one, was never decoded. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe it was meant to linger. Just long enough for someone like you to wonder why. Thank you for listening. As always, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. And remember to like and follow Lost in the List for more tales like these.